You know, one thing that I've given a lot of thought to recently is trying to make sure I get as much soy as I can into our food. And I think there's been some, we've had a lot of misunderstandings that have been flying around with our politics and so forth. And that's happened with food as well. And one thing that's kind of gotten a bad vibe or a bad knock, if you will, is soy products. And when I go to the store and look for soy yogurt or soy milk, sometimes I have to look hard because they're really showcasing cashew or oat, which are great products. But I just want to explain to you that soy products are extraordinarily valuable because they don't put you at risk for disease. They actually are protective against disease. So I actively watch for recipes that use soy. So what we're going to talk about tonight is something my daughter-in-law, Christy, shared with me. And it's a maple-glazed tofu. And it's really fun because it's delicious. You can use it in sandwiches. You can use it in cut into squares and on salads.
Or you can just eat it plain like I do.
You can eat it plain, yes. Or if you enjoy something like a layered bowl with a grain, some steamed greens, something like this, and with a sauce on top, it's absolutely delicious. So it can go a lot of directions, and it's quick. And as we're thinking about food for the holidays, sometimes our lives get kind of busy and compressed, and sometimes it's nice to have something that's simple ingredients and quick to prepare. So I wanted to show you this tofu. So in the tofu world, there's many varieties and they're all different. And I am learning about these super firm ones just in this last week or so, and they're remarkable. I've always used extra firm tofu in all of my cooking, but these ones that are the super firm ones that aren't packed in water, they're just kind of shrink wrapped, are a whole different product. And I'm very excited about it because it opens a whole new dimension in tofu cooking. So Tim, if you could open that. So this is very, very quick, and if you find out you have some hungry children that need something to eat, or you need to prepare a meal and you don't have a lot of time, this is a great option. So you take the tofu out of its packet, drain the liquid out of it, and then you slice it. This tofu, if this was regular tofu, you would make an effort to make sure it was very well drained. But this tofu is already quite whole. It's not very wet at all, which makes it really easy to slice and make into.
And for this recipe, you want to try to get the slices as even or similar in thickness as possible. I'm slicing it at about 3/8 of an inch. You can do narrower, or you can do wider, but 3/8 is what my wife wanted, plus or minus.
You don't need to use a ruler here. So the next thing that you would do is to take a cookie tray, and I put a Silpat in here, but you could use marked parchment paper. But before we put it in the tray, just to get some moisture out of it, we're going to put it on a dish towel and take some of the water out of it.
The drier it is when you put it in to bake it, the chewier it will be on the other side. Now, my wife likes it a little less chewy than I do. I like it really chewy. And if it's a little drier, it absorbs the flavor better and it will be a little chewier.
Yeah, that's the reason that I am working at getting the water out of the tofu, is I want the tofu to absorb as much flavor as possible.
So one thing that you can do is put it between two dish towels and then put a breadboard on top. And then you can put a pot on top of that and pour in some water. Now that's just for weight. If you want to use something else to use the weight, that's fine. We actually have a piece of marble that we use, not marble, granite that we use in our kitchen, and I put that on top of the breadboard, and that works really well to get the water out. But if you leave that for 15 minutes or
15,
so.
20 minutes. But with this super firm tofu, you can be a little, you can use
be a little faster.
A little faster, right?
Yeah. So we'll pretend that we've had 15 minutes there. And then we'll take it off. And you can see already here the water's starting to come through and getting the tofu drier.
So at this stage, we'll go ahead and put it, but we would have preheated our oven to 425. It's really important when you're baking this that you put it into a preheated oven. So I would probably, when I first started cooking, I would start my oven on preheat. We're actually not going to use the oven today. We're just going to walk you through the steps, but I have all of the steps right here, right in front of us, so we can see how it all works. So we have this here, and if this oven was preheated, I would put it in, and it's good, if you can, to put it on the top shelf. Put it in the top shelf of your preheated oven. And you can check on it, but I find that if you bake it for around 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and then flip it, you may only need another 5 minutes.
If you want it chewier, you bake it for 15 minutes. If you want it less chewy, for 10. And if you like it really chewy, we did that too. And I liked it really well because it was really chewy, but we did it for about 20 minutes on a side.
That was too much.
That was just right.
So this is what it looks like when it's come out of the oven after about 10 minutes on both, 10 minutes on one side and 5 minutes on the other. And you can see it's kind of turned a little bit of a golden brown. It hasn't really turned brown. It's just a little bit darker, kind of like getting out in the sun and getting a little bit of a tan. So after you've taken it out of the oven, you have it now browned and it's also lost some more of its water. Then you mix together in a bowl. So you have 2 tablespoons of tamari, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and 4 tablespoons of water.
And if you spill on the maple syrup and get a little bit more, no one will fuss, unless it's the person who bought it. And I pre-measured the 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup of the water.
So then we give this a good mix. So if I was going to be cooking this, I would pour this mixture into my pan, heat it, and then I would place the tofu in the pan.
And you heat it on medium temperature. You don't want to burn the tofu. And as it's heating, of course, the water boils off, and you turn the tofu so that each side gets
It's critical to have a
absorbed.
good spatula so you can just flip it over You can see even without having this heating, it's starting to pick up some color. So this is the batch of tofu that I made just before I came here to the hospital tonight. And you can see that it absorbed a lot of color and also a lot of the flavor. It's delicious. So I just want to encourage you to try this. It's something new to me, but we've really enjoyed working with it, and I think
just
it'll be fun.
remember, you can play with the time in the oven, and that changes how chewy the tofu is at the end.
And just a couple things about this. Whenever you're dealing with soy, it's always 100% of the time organic. And
Why is that, Cheryl?
Yeah, tell us why that is, Tim.
If it's not organic, almost always it's GMO and it's raised with glyphosate as a weed killer, and then you're going to adversely affect, I was going to say screw up, but you're going to adversely affect your microbiome. So with soy, it really is important to use organic whenever possible.
And you also want a whole soy product. What we don't want is isolated soy protein. There's a lot of what we call phony bologna out there. Fake meat, fake hamburger, fake bacon, fake ham that has isolated soy protein or soy protein isolate, and we don't want that because
The reason you want to avoid that is soy protein isolate, just like some of your refined proteins, including animal protein, can increase your risk for cancer. Anytime you take a product and take the fiber out and take the nutrients out and refine it enough, your body doesn't handle it as well. And when it doesn't handle it as well, you get higher risk of chronic disease, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
So the soy product that was used tonight, tofu, in its the traditional way that it's made is great. However, there is one brand that comes in a box. You don't see it, you don't see the tofu, it's completely surrounded in a paper box. You want to shy away from that because that is not traditional tofu. That is actually isolated soy protein. So whenever you're dealing with soy, always read the ingredients, know what you're getting, and make sure that it's plain soy, always organic, never soy protein isolate.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so give us just a couple minutes and then we'll get on to our talk for tonight.
Just a few words while we're cleaning up here on soy. Soy is rich in phytoestrogens, and for a while we thought that phytoestrogen might increase breast cancer rate. Now we know it decreases breast cancer rates, but at the same time you do get good benefit from it with some reduction in postmenopausal symptoms of hot flashes. Men, it's a good food for you as well, as it has been shown to reduce your risk of prostate cancer, because prostate cancer has estrogen receptors on it as well, and so it will reduce risk of prostate cancer, reduce risk of breast cancer, and additionally soy has been shown to lower cholesterol and reduce your risk of coronary disease. So it's a wonderful product to have, provided, as Cheryl mentioned, that it's one, organic, and two, that it's the whole food. And how is it? We have a few people here that are sampling, and the word was yummy. But it would be even better if it was a little chewier, right? Well, that's a personal taste.
And what I really like about this recipe is it is so versatile. You can use it in a sandwich, you can use it in a wrap, you can use it in like a quinoa bowl, or on top of a salad, or if you like to make sushi or spring rolls or any of those kinds of things, it's a really yummy thing to do.